Well, good morning everyone, Tony Margaritelli here, Chairman at ICPA. It's the 1st of July. Things are going really well in the Women's Footy World Cup, aren't they? Semi-final coming up in a day or two. We managed a good win in the cricket, thank goodness, after a couple of defeats against the Indians yesterday. So picking up again in the Cricket World Cup. Hamilton didn't win. Makes a change, I suppose, for the others. Hamilton didn't win the Grand Prix. I've just come back from a superb London conference at Practice Evolution. We had a superb conference there, and I'll be heading up to sunny Manchester. Well, I don't know if it's going to be sunny, but I'll be heading up to Manchester in a couple of days for the 4th of July Practice Evolution conference there. So I suppose it's time for another one of my In Practice blogs. Well, as I say, today's the 1st of July, and a couple of days ago, literally I think it was about the 26th, I held a webinar with the fabulous Melanie Lord of AVS VAT, our ICPA VAT guru, on the domestic reverse charge. Fair to say it was a really interesting webinar. We had in excess of 1,000 attendees. I just want to literally just mention 4 or 5 things that struck me out of so many things we covered that struck me about this particular issue. So I'm going to make sure I don't get it wrong. I'm going to read it out here. But there's about 4 or 5 things that I just wanted to bring to your attention on this one. First up, it only affects standard rated and reduced rated supplies. Yeah, standard rate and reduced rated supplies. So if it's 0 rated, it's not in this reverse charge. It's only applicable on the services that fall under the CIS scheme. So if you're looking at services, what services are included, it's all listed in the CIS, where we're used to seeing about that, because obviously we've got plenty of subcontractors and we're used to the CIS scheme a little bit more than this domestic reverse charge. So have a look there. It also, remember, it affects supplies, not just services. But that's remember, it's between VAT registered entities, yeah? VAT registered entities. So if someone's not VAT registered, instantly they're not in this reverse charge stuff. If some of what you do or some of the invoice is part CIS and part non-CIS, for VAT reverse charge, the whole malarkey's in. It's all in one, yeah? And finally, most important, you could find that some of your VAT registered subcontractors could find themselves in repayment situations. So check that out, see what sort of work they're doing, and if it's likely that they're going to end up as VAT repayments, you might want to think about switching them over to a monthly return, yeah? Those are just a few of the highlights that struck me, but obviously we covered a lot more on that particular webinar. I just want to say that the one thing that I thought really upsetting, I suppose is the term. Obviously I've been in practice an awful long time, and what I found distressing about this particular piece of legislation is that all the admin burden, all the checking, all the make sure you get it right is falling on the smallest of entities, yeah? It's all our clients, the bottom end of the chain. As the chain is building up towards the end user, that's where our clients are, isn't it? And they're the ones who are having to do all the admin, having to sort out all the, are you a subcontract? Are you VAT registered? Having to deal with all this additional, I call it admin, but paperwork. And of course, full well, don't we? We all know full well that if they get it wrong, they're going to be penalised. The ones at the top, who are the end users, who are the, they're not really impacted by this, are they? Because the work's got to be dealt with below. And that is what I think is very upsetting about this particular piece of legislation. For my final piece of today's July video blog, I just want to run over a case that was brought to my attention by Krona Eye and was adjudicated on 7th of June. In fact, this literally just a few weeks ago. And it's the case whereby a PAYE taxpayer was, for some reason, his employer operated the wrong code, and it resulted in the taxpayer owing some money. Now, the taxpayer was moving around, had moved changed various addresses, various temporary addresses, before he got a sort of much more settled address. When he got that, when he finally had, as it were, settled down, he became aware that he owed some tax, and it was incorrect. He got in touch with HMRC, instantly filed the return that he had to require to put all the information right, came to an agreement with HMRC to settle the outstanding amount of tax, got a time to pay, as it were, and as life was, everything was hunky-dory, wasn't it? Except we all know full well that that's not good enough for HMRC, is it? They instantly went for late filings, etc., penalties, and Lord knows what else. Fortunately, the taxpayer decided to contest it and took it all the way to the tribunal. Good for him. And when you consider that, this is a PAYE taxpayer, why would he assume that his code number was incorrect? He had no knowledge that his code number was incorrect. And when, as they pointed to the tribunal, when he did find out what had happened, he instantly got in touch with HMRC, sorted out a time, a repayment schedule, and life was grand. But yet HMRC had to go for that extra yard, didn't they? They had to go for the penalties. They had to go for the late filing. Sometimes you just sit here and despair, don't you? That was this another computer-generated option? No doubt it was. I don't know whether it was or it wasn't. All we keep hearing is the march of AI, artificial intelligence. Automation is is getting better and better. Well, HMRC, if this was automated, it's not very good, is it? You're simply looking at the bare bones and not seeing anything behind the case. Why are these cases being brought? Why are they continuing to be brought? I don't know. How much is it costing, not just the gentleman involved, but all of us, all the taxpayers as HMRC, of wasting more money pursuing cases that they should never have brought? What is the thinking behind that? Here we go, we're having tax gap figures brought out, and yet again they're saying, the small businesses are doing this, that and the other, and small taxpayers, etc., they're the cause of this supposed tax gap. And yet HMRC inadvertently are adding to that, aren't they, by wasting, I dread to think, how much of taxpayers' money in pursuing stupid cases like this. Well done to the gentleman involved, and shame on you, HMRC.